What's up, everybody? We're back. It's Saturday. It's fight day, and we are
Woo!
30 minutes away from an action-packed,
Biggest card of the year?
storyline-filled. Yes,
Biggest card of the year?
UFC Vegas 63 event. I know I see some people saying, "Where's the funky beat from EKC?" EKC is a very busy man. He is in Glendale, Arizona, getting ready for Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva, which goes down a little bit later on today. But before that happens, we got this UFC card. Jed Mishu is joining us. I am Mike Heck, by the way. We're going to take your questions. That's what this show is all about. It's the People's Pre-Fight Show. But Jed, is the UFC 280 hangover still happening? Like, it's a week later. Usually the hangover starts to fizzle, but I don't know, man. I think it's still kind of hanging around a little bit more than most.
It's still hanging around for sure. I mean, it doesn't help that this card does not have any attractions to it, right? Like the main event's a good fight. We've talked about it. I talked about it on BTL this week. Like it's a really good fight, but because it means nothing, it just isn't there. And we talk all the time about kind of like UFC overload, doing 45 events a year is too much. Fundamentally, I agree with that, but like the week after pay-per-views is when it all like you feel it the most, just because the design of pay-per-views is so there are a bunch of storylines, and we could have taken like a full week to digest everything and work beyond it. And like in my head, a perfect world is you have events leading up to it because that sets the course to get you amped. Then you have the main event, and then every week after a main event should be a week off from the UFC, in my personal opinion. You've got the pay-per-view, you got the storylines marinating. You can look forward to coming back in a week, but you can just take some time to sort of decompress from this big event for the month and build, and then you start the build for the next one. And instead, we get an event like this, which is honestly probably going to be more fun. Like this looks a little bit like one of those cards that it might be more fun. And then those people who are like, well, you never know until they do it or whatever, will think that they've had some great coup because some fun stuff happens on this card. But it's just none of this there's no weight what's going on here, because all the weight was last weekend and we haven't even really dealt with that appropriately.
Yeah. And as we've talked about many times, the main event of UFC 280 has, in the aftermath of that, has taken any stakes away
They're
from
out
this
of the room,
fight.
baby.
So, I mean, that's where we're at right now. Like I said many times, I'm in on this Volkanovski Makhachev idea. Like right now is the time to do it, at least in my opinion. But the one downfall is that this fight in particular suffers a little bit. But who knows? Maybe the winner will call for an interim title fight. Volkanovski has already given his blessing for an interim title fight. So maybe there could be some stakes, but in terms of getting to the undisputed title and fighting Alexander Volkanovski, there are no stakes in this fight, at least as of right now.
Yeah. I mean, there's just the best this fight can say is that the winner may get a number one contenders bout, right? Because that's all an interim title is. And again, it's a great fight on its own merits. I'm really excited to watch it. It's just it is what it is. We don't have to pretend that this is a great event. It's not. It's very solid. It's early in the day. It's pretty limited on numbers. There's some good things here. Main event's going to be good. Main card opener's probably going to be really fun. But we could have had worse. But anytime you put together a fight card that has two heavyweights fights on it, you're asking for it to not be the anyone's favorite card of the year, you know?
And speaking of Matt Maggio, first question. How many more wins for Andre Arlovski to get him a top 10 fight? Never thought I would type this.
I mean, I don't know. Does he get? I don't think he gets a top 10 fight anyway. I think he would get a top 15 fight. If he wins this, he probably has to get a top 15 opponent. Like, right? Like that's 5 in a row for the GOAT. Like, how do you? I don't know that he cares. Andre Arlovski has done this really brilliant Jim Millery sort of just happy to be here, fight guys, get wins. Maybe it's not always pretty, but he's pulling it off. I think if he wins this one, though, you probably, I don't know. Let me pull up the UFC's rankings.
I'm pulling, I have them right now. So
trying to think who's at the back end of that.
Let's play this game right now. Okay. 10 through 15.
I know exactly what's happening if he wins.
Right. Andre Arlovski versus Marcin Tybura. How does that fight go?
Oh, that's an awful fight. I just don't even
It's a
want to
bad
think.
fight. Can
I don't even
Arlovski
want to
win that
think
fight?
about that fight. I don't even
Then
want to think about that fight.
there's Chris Dawkins, who's fighting. Sergey Spivak is fighting. Romanov. This is the on to the next one. Money.
That's
pick.
the answer.
Yeah, it's probably Romanov.
If Andrei Arlovski wins this, we're getting Romanov back into the win column with a big name, etc. Like that's what's going to happen if he wins.
There's Blagoy, and then there's Shamil, who's been booked against Jelton Almeida 14 times, and the fight still hasn't happened.
Blagoy and Shamil faced each other. That feels like a fight that's supposed to happen. Just those two guys feel like they should have fought in the worst 15-minute battle in the history of modern MMA. Can you tell how good this card is that I just fantasy matched Blagoy, Ivanov, and Shamil Abdurakhimov?
UFC Vegas 63 do the thing where the main event needs to call it Emmett for an interim title fight. Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Do you think he should call it Emmett? Should he call it Yair?
Yair has made it very clear he's not fighting anybody.
Yeah, but that's just not going to work. So,
it just depends. Like, I think Allen,
the winner of this isn't going to do the thing is the problem here. Like
Allen might.
Calvin might. You think Allen might? I don't think Allen's going to.
I don't think he's going to go out and do surprise MFers. I think he's going to come on and be like, hey, you know what? The UFC's coming back to the UK, and wouldn't it be just a compelling
You already
idea?
have more energy and spirit in what you're saying than he's ever had on the mic. And I love Arnold Allen. I want to be clear. I think he's hilarious, very dry sense of humor. But that man's not going to say something like that. It'd be like, yeah, I think they're going back to London. Leon champion. I'd love to fight on the card. It'd be great to have a title fight. Cool. See you guys in London. This is what it's going to be like. All right. Well, it'd be great. Yeah, it would be great.
If you've ever watched a Bill Belichick post-victory press conference, that's what Calvin Kattar's going to say. Hey, listen, this guy's a tough guy. He's a great opponent. Arnold's behind me. On to the next one. Whoever the UFC wants.
Boston Mike coming out here.
I don't turn down fights, bro. I don't turn down fights. Like that's it. That's it. I hope I'm wrong, but
the thing is, this is very different to me, right? Like it would be better. Like they could do better or worse things. There is not a clearly outlined thing for them to do. Like every UFC 280 fighter had a very clear thing to do, and they all just fumbled it. They all just sucked at it, except for Islam and Habib. Like this one, because they cannot get a title fight, like they can ask for an interim belt. But again, it's not even clear who they would face for an interim title, because for whatever Yair says, like the UFC may not feel the same. Like maybe the UFC is just like, yeah, you're going to do this or we're going to put you back into the line. Like there's a much less clear thing for them to do here, which again, part of why it sort of is lame. Like part of why the bad side of Volkanovski's move up here is this fight means nothing. And there's not a lot to build off even from this.
Jose, I believe Allen wins by KO. I'm telling you right now, that would be the most shocking result of this fight is if Arnold Allen knocks out Calvin Kattar. It's not because I don't think Arnold could win. I just don't think anybody could finish Calvin at 145 pounds. Like if Max can't do it, and this dude's taking some big shots and a lot of punishment, and no one's been able to finish this man on the feet. I just don't see Arnold finishing him. I just don't.
If Arnold Allen knocks out Calvin Kattar, I am going to immediately be furious about the Volkanovski Bowl. Because if Arnold Allen goes out here and finishes Calvin Kattar, that's the dude to fight Alexander Volkanovski for the featherweight. Like, if he knocks out Calvin Kattar, 1,000% Volkanovski deserves to be the number one featherweight in the world based on accomplishment. But if Allen on a 10-fight win streak puts away the unfinishable guy, I have serious questions about who is the best 145er, and I want to see that fight more than anything. I would be shocked if it happened, but if it does, man, I am going to turn so hard against this champ fight.
Yeah, it makes things very interesting. That would be the one result where it's like, ooh, maybe the UFC is going to think about this a little differently. And they might just switch up how they're going to handle this. But again, you're asking a lot. It would also just
be way cooler. It'd be way cooler to have Volk defend his belt in Perth against a guy like that than lose his pound for pound status to a guy who is bigger and better than him in Perth.
Well, let's just say, think about this division.
Go right? Dogs, sick 'em. Sorry, we just just kicked off.
Sorry to the Syracuse people, by the way. Notre Dame is putting the thumping to Syracuse right now. The unranked Irish, which is crazy. What happens if Volkanovski beats Makhachev? Like, I agree with you that if Volk beats Makhachev, and you think he should do it now, but just because he's made the decision to go up to 55. But I do believe that if Volkanovski somehow beats this guy and becomes the lightweight champion, he's not going to be the featherweight champion anymore. I think he's dumping the belt. He's already turned around and said, like, hey, Beneil, buddy, it's all right, dude. Like, once I beat this guy, you're not going to have to wait very long because I'll fight you next. And then that leaves featherweight still without a title fight. So I think there'll be, I don't know, you just throw the top two dudes in there. But that could make the London card or England card much bigger now, right? If Allen wins this fight, calls for Josh or Yair, Volkanovski beats Makhachev and vacates in February, you can do an undisputed title fight.
I mean, it'd be ideal. Like that is how this should work. If Allen can win, he becomes the co-main event to Leon Usman, interim belt against whoever is the other guy. And that feels like how that goes. If Volk wins, I agree. He's bouncing on 145. I don't think he's fighting Beneil. I think he will fight Connor or the winner of Poirier Chandler because Beneil Dariush does not get a title fight until he beats somebody else and acts like he freaking wants one. And because the UFC is not just going to hand him one, there's no incentive for the UFC to just give him one because he is not claiming it. And so, and by that time, Connor will be back. And then I'm actually not even going to say the other ones. It's Connor. If Volk wins, it's Connor. It's the two featherweight, lightweight champs and the biggest bag of money. That is for sure gonna be the thing that happens if Volk beats Makhachev. So everyone pull for Islam because that would be the worst of all outcomes.
Hey, listen, I keep saying that Connor's not going to fight Islam, but
I don't think Connor's going to fight. I don't think Islam will fight Connor is the thing.
Interesting.
I think it's less that Connor won't fight him. I just think Islam will be like, no, screw that dude.
All right. Tresean Gore by decision or KO?
I assume Josh Fremd is going to win this fight, but Tresean Gore's fought like 4 times. Who knows what he can look like this time out here? Like when you're that early into having a professional fight career, the swings are enormous. So like, it wouldn't shock me either way.
If he wins, it's by KO.
I mean,
it's early. It's early.
KO if he wins, if he wins, it's going to be a finish.
Yeah, but he's not. Yeah, Josh is a good fighter. Anthony Hernandez is a super tough dude to fight, and Josh gave him hell on pretty short notice. So, Is Jacoby Roundtree going to be the fight of the night? And the more important question, Jed, especially for your bank account and your betting slips, which Roundtree will show up? But you maybe want to throw out your little stat that
it's going to be the good one, man. I believe in this one with all my heart and soul. The Khalil Rountree's 2 best performances in the UFC. Mike, who were they against?
Carl Roberson and Gokhan Saki.
You know what Carl Roberson and Gokhan Saki have in common? They both fought for Glory Kickboxing. You know who else fought for Glory Kickboxing? Dustin Jacoby, baby. In fact, Jacoby has a win over Roberson in Glory. Khalil Roundtree, man does well against people who are just trying to kick fight him. And that's what's going to happen here. Like, I can't quit him anyway. Before I even realized that, I was still like, I know Jacoby's like a good striker or whatever, but like Roundtree is just such a violent man, and his highs are so high that I can't. I look past the many times he's failed, but like, I don't know. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that verifies everything I wanted to believe anyway. Khalil Rountree's going to do a really violent thing. It's going to be awesome.
So you're saying Khalil will do the awesome thing. It won't be fight of the night, but he might get a performance.
I actually think it could be fight of the night because I think Dustin Jacoby's really tough. So it may be a thing where like Khalil ends up kicking his leg like half off his body, but Jacoby just hangs in. I was not willing to bet Khalil by KO just because Jacoby's really tough, and this could be a really fun, scrap in that regard. But I do think Khalil Roundtree is going to win and has a very good chance to score a finish.
I don't think this is going to be fight of the night. I think the not bad Roundtree is going to show up.
It's not going to be fight of the night for actually. I'm not willing to say that.
I still think I think the focused good Roundtree is going to show up. I still think he's going to lose to Dustin Jacoby because one thing people aren't talking about enough is that although Dustin is a tremendous striker, very technical guy, the Glory Kickboxer, all that. The man can wrestle a little bit too, and I feel like he's gonna have to wrestle to win this fight.
If he wrestles, he loses pride rules, because that's not what anyone's here for.
Yeah, but
that's punching the coward's way out right there. That's smashing the emergency I lose button. Don't wrestle Dustin Jacoby. Let's have fun.
Yeah, he's not gonna do that. I mean, he'll have some fun for a little while, but I think after he sees the violent look in Roundtree's eyes, he'll be like,
don't do that. Let's not be that way.
Let's do something else. Let's see what else we got here. People defending this card, which is fine. By the way,
if you like this card, enjoy this card, baby.
Yes,
I'm never telling you not to enjoy the card. I'm telling you the truth, which is that this is not the best outing the UFC has ever offered.
Yeah, were you excited? Like at this point in the NFL season, were you excited to see the Minnesota Vikings and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play Thursday Night Football? No,
I've never been excited for a Thursday Night Football game.
Exactly. So it's okay to say that, hey, listen, on paper, the stakes are not very high, but it still could be fun. It's okay. This is probably going to be a fun card. There's just nothing on the line.
Sorry, I see a bunch of stuff, but this guy named Benji, his comment says, it feels like Jed is saying Dariush is getting the short end of things. He fails to realize Dariush himself butchered the call out. Look how Islam capitalized his call out. Hey, Benji, you're new here. I'm glad to have you as a fan. Love it. Go back and watch literally any video content from me this past week. Our post show, BTL, any of it. I do not fail to realize that in any regard.
Yeah, this is one of the worst comments on here, right? By the way, we're tired after a big week.
I love that comment.
Yeah, it's just bad. It's just a bad comment.
Again,
are we telling you not to watch this? No.
Oh, my issue with that is like, my guy, we're not hardcore fans.
We watch more MMA than you do.
I am willing to put my fandom up against literally anybody on the planet other than Kaposa and like Jordan Breen. Like how long and how much of this I have watched, I am also discerning from what's good, great, and bad. This isn't bad, and none of us have said it. It's just not great, and it lacks stakes, which coming off something as big and important and awesome as 280 was, is a letdown, and it's okay to feel that way. But if you like it, I love that you like it. Tune in. It's going to be a great time.
It's going to be a fun card. There's just literally nothing on the line in any of these fights, including the main event as of right now. Unless
there are 2 fights with any level of stakes in them. I guess 3 if you want to say that Jared Van Der Oz on a pink slip derby fight. Like he's fighting for his job. Everything else is middle of the road stuff. And that's what happens when you have 47 cards a year and you have 600 fighters. Not every fight is going to be A++. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a card full of C pluses.
Yes. Rolo keeps asking about the interim title thing, but we've literally addressed this 4 or 5 times already in the last 19 minutes. We don't know what's going on with Volkanovski, but the best case scenario for this main event, once again, is that there is an interim title fight. You've already gotten the blessing from the champion, so someone's just got to earn that spot. And if Yair doesn't want to do it, then somebody else could do it. So there you go.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's see. Can't see the clock. How far are we out from the first punch? I mean, the broadcast is supposed to start in 11 minutes, but I would say we're probably
25 out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If
unless you're talking about the Bellator main card, which starts at 4 p.m. Everybody, don't forget Bellator Milan, baby, headlined by Adam Piccolotti versus Masur Banoui. Got Adam Piccolotti and a French dude to headline Bellator Milan. All right.
Did you guys see the graphic on Twitter? Despite starting his UFC career 17 years after Arlovski, Kattar has absorbed more significant strikes in his UFC career.
That doesn't that's a really fun stat. Whoever popped that, good on you. Really respect it. Doesn't totally shock me when you consider the fact that the weight classes, heavyweights don't absorb a lot of significant strikes. They absorb one and go to sleep. So it doesn't totally shock me. I would frankly be way more interested just to know the Arlovski number, because like if you told me in the dark that half of those came against Max Holloway, I would believe you. I would be like, yeah, actually, Max Holloway landed more 6 strikes on Kattar than Arlovski had in 27 UFC fights combined. I'd be like, yep, that sounds right.
What else do we have? Who do you got in the Durden fight?
Oh, I was trying to read how that was played, because there are a lot of LFA fights on this card, my guys. If y'all don't know, this is that. Look, again, I'm not talking trash on anybody. What I'm telling you is that like half of the people on this card were fighting in LFA, many of them earlier this year. We are watching a UFC LFA card with a great headliner. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but that is what it is. Give me Mota. I like Mota a lot. I think he deserves to be here. In fact, if you listen to No Bets Barred or read my gambling column, I cooked up a little gimmick parlay for the funsies of it. The LFA champion parlay, because we have 2 not technically current LFA champions because they ditched their belts to be here, but 2 people who were LFA champions as of like, well, in Mota's case, like 2 weeks ago or something like that, right? Yeah, like 5 days ago, he was still an LFA champion. But yeah, just popped in. So I'm on Mota. I like his chances here, even on short notice. He's just shown me a lot in LFA. Good game all around. And I'm not like a huge Cody Durden guy.
But that's not even the best. That's not even. There's only one bet to be made on that fight, Jed. Please tell the folks what is the right bet to be made on this flyweight fight.
Well, I mean, you always bet the flyweight unders because it's how you do. So I forgot, actually. I have the under in this bet because you always bet flyweight unders. How do you not? And then I have Moto with Walter Cortez Acosta. So
What was the number? Because I know on No Bets Barred that the line hadn't dropped yet.
That is true. Hold on, let me pull up my number here. Actually, let me go to DraftKings because I don't have my thing. So where are we at? Durden Mota under 2.5 is minus 140, which I think is pretty close to what I bought at.
2.5 is just beautiful.
I mean, yeah, you're always going to get the 2.5. Even for flyweights, you're always going to get it. So there you go.
Did they redo Brian Battle versus Gore for the tough finale? Yes, they did, and Brian Battle won that fight. It took a couple times of booking it to get it in there, but yeah.
Sensei, imagine betting Mugs game. Absolutely right. But it's fun. Man, is it fun.
Does Jacoby get a top 10 fight with a win tonight? Now, I was an advocate.
He's got it, right?
I was an advocate for doing – I know they booked him with – I saw this matchup made, and then they booked what should have been the correct matchup a couple days later. I was the advocate that Dustin Jacoby should have got the Dominic Reyes return fight. I think that one made the most sense.
I think that would have made sense.
6-0-1. 6-0-1 since come back to the UFC. He needs – like he's getting hardcore fan respect, but casual audiences have no idea who Dustin Jacoby is. But fighting a guy like Dominic Reyes – when you have a 7-fight unbeaten streak, people will learn his story a little bit more. And if he wins, that's awesome. And he gets a big boost. And if he loses, it's okay because Dominic Reyes is back and Dustin Jacoby still has fun fights ahead of him. But if Jacoby wins this one, does he get that big one? I don't know if he gets Reyes, if Reyes beats Ryan Spann, but
he doesn't get Reyes if Reyes beats Ryan Spann because Reyes will be fighting upward because he's still the name, etc. They'll give him another crack. If he wins, I mean, he has to, right? He's top 15 in the UFC's rankings. He'll be 7-0-1 with a couple really good wins in there. Like, what's Paul Craig doing?
Does he have a fight booked?
I have no idea. You're the fight that has never been a strength of mine.
I think he does. Johnny Walker? Yeah, he's fighting Johnny Walker. UFC 283.
Yeah, you can fight the winner of that. That makes sense.
Yeah,
little 4-man tournament right there. The winner of those two fights face off.
Is Jake Paul Anderson Silva boxing tonight? Yes.
Sure is.
Going down, and we will be there. Well, Jed and I won't be there, but MMA Fighting will be there. The trifecta.
Anderson Silva's going to beat the hell out of
him. Does Vendera go 1-6 in the UFC, or does he remember he knows BJJ?
It'd be cool if he did, man. It'd be cool if he did. BJJ black belt who just has no concept that that's a thing that he did. The one time he remembered that he had BJJ was when he was grappling against a guy who was better at grappling than him in Alexei Oleinik. It's the only time he's ever freaking remembered it. It boggles my mind.
That's the best.
I will say this now. I actually think there's a legitimate argument to just bet every underdog on this card. Like that, frankly, every fight on this card, the underdogs feel live to me, if nothing else. And this Jared Vanderhoff is sure if he fought smart, he would at least have a 50-50 chance of winning this fight. Because Wilder Costa's not like great. He's fine. He's just not like a great fighter, and he's not a great grappler, but it seems unlikely that's going to happen.
Jed, do you like a flyer on Joseph Holmes to win inside the distance at plus 380?
I like Holmes. I have Holmes in a bet. The size disparity there is just way too big. But I mean, what's he at right now? I think I got him at like +2. So you're not getting much more for an ITD bet.
Plus 185 for Joseph Holmes.
Yeah, you're getting like 200 extra for an ITD. No, the Turtle's pretty tough. It's not an awful bet. I just take the straight value on betting him as an underdog anyway. You're getting plenty of juice there.
This may not be your cup of tea, but a sensible matchup. If
That's
Chase
a great
Hooper
question
wins.
because I have no idea. Seems like you can't give him anybody good, but like he needs to make progression, and I don't know where like who do you have in this regard, Mike? Because I don't know who's like a good top 35-ish featherweight.
I mean,
we need AK. He's the one who has rankings that go down to like 60 or something.
Charles Rosa, I wouldn't mind. I think there'd be some fun. Rosa lost 3 in a row, so I mean that'd be like a big fight for Charles Rosa. It's a decent name for him. Somebody like that, maybe. I mean, there's other guys like. I mean, if you want to do Don Shanis but I think beating Steve Garcia is a little higher.
I could buck with Bill Algeo.
Maybe. Like I wouldn't do like a David O'Neill. Like I don't want anybody who could sit there. I don't know. It's tough. I feel better about throwing him in there with some of these guys than I did. Onama. Oh boy, yeah,
that'd be fine.
Onama's a tough fight for anybody.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like at some point, that's the thing is I don't view Chase Hooper as like a prospect we need to build to something. He's just a young dude, and you just throw him in and see where he comes out in the wash. Like,
yeah,
you don't need to rush him. You don't need to really hold his hand. Just let's have him fight some dudes and see where he settles and let him develop just with time. I think that's an okay way to play with him.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, he would not be in the UFC.
Right.
He would be doing this against very beatable competition on the regional level. And then when he came to the UFC, it'd be like, all right, this is a guy we need to get behind. Let's craft his build and make sure he's progressing. Instead, we just have a 22-year-old kid who's not close to he's not going to fight for a championship in the next 4 years. So just throw him against bodies and see what happens. See where he shakes out.
Yeah, people like him. He's he's a good kid, good interview, very funny kid, good fighter. But no more Bruce Lee Wright fights. No more fights like that. We don't need to do that. Bruce Lee Wright was crazy for that was his 3rd UFC fight.
That was a pretty high kick up in competition for him.
That was a gigantic one.
Wasn't entirely ridiculous, but it was a pretty big step up and not a thing we need to do.
Chase,
give him a top 40 guy.
If Chase Hooper had won that fight, he would have been a ranked featherweight, which is insane.
Yeah.
He would have been a top 15 featherweight.
22 years old or whatever. I can't wait to see what we do with that 17-year-old kid. They're going to butcher him.
What's Steve Garcia's path to victory?
Just being like a professional fighter. Like it's the thing. Like Chase Hooper looked good last time out, right? But he is so young, and so his striking is one step above worrisome because it looked better. But like he's just not. He doesn't have a game right now. He can grapple, and everything else is very clearly the bones of something. Now that may look entirely different tonight because he's very young and you improve rapidly and this is his full-time thing, etc. But like Steve Garcia is just a competent dude. He's not going to blow the doors off anybody, but veteran, knows how to fight. Don't get locked up in too many grappling exchanges with Hooper. That's where Hooper's the most comfortable and the best. You can stick onto the body, get inside. I'm pretty sure Hooper has a bit of range on him. Like you don't, if you can just make Hooper uncomfortable on the feet is the best way to go because
Yeah.
that's not where he's comfortable. And you don't have to try and clobber him with one shot. But if you just put a pressure on him and continuously give him stuff to work around, to identify and move like away from, it's going to make that fight more difficult for him.
Dustin, I agree. Not that bad of a card. Like I said, this is going to be this. I think this is going to be an entertaining watch, but it's just fights. And there's nothing wrong with that. Fights for the sake of fights are still fights, and fights are awesome, but there's no stakes.
Yeah,
we're fighting
I get to gamble on this card, so it's dope. Like it's fun that I get to gamble.
Exactly.
I will say, 11 fights, great. I am marginally, and I know that this is how it goes, but like the fight card starts at 4. We've got 3 hours for 6 undercard fights. They could have done that in less time, right? Like if we get a series of finishes on the undercard, there is going to be a lot of tossing it to Karen Bryant and crew.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the part that is the least interesting to me, which I'll just watch the football games. So I guess it's, can work around it. But if this card is fun, i.e. the fights have finishes, also going to be very content fillery, which is tough.
Yes. And I would still take Karen Bryant and crew over the alternative of the typical Bellator.
Well, I have to watch
one person in particular. Name starts with a J and ends in Osh.
I actually need to pull that up right now, don't
I? Let's see where else we're at. What's the best underdog on the card, Jed?
It's the thing though, man. Like, hold on, let me look at where the odds settled. I'm not even kidding. If you just approach this card and said, F it, I'm going to throw a small bet on every underdog, I think you will break out above even. Like every dog on this card feels pretty live for one reason or another. Let me look at them very quickly. Who do I think is the best underdog?
I mean, to me it was Kattar, but now it's literally
a pick 'em fight now.
Pick 'em, which I had a feeling was going to happen. So I guess my answer,
Kattar still wouldn't have been the best for me, but
on Wednesday he was, because he was like a plus 140, and I was like, wow, that's still pretty insane.
It's high, but no, I think it's Joseph Holmes.
That's a good one. I'm picking his opponent to win, like in our MMA fighting picks crew. But if someone's like $20 thrown on an underdog, Roman Dolidze is a little. I
have a bet on Dolidze.
Yeah, I like Roman Dolidze at plus 150. I'm picking Hawes to win, but there's value on Roman Dolidze for sure.
Hawes is a little bit of Khalil Roundtree-esque. There are 2 versions of him, and especially the 3rd round version gives me a lot of pause. I just love what I've seen from Dolidze. He's bringing the fight, and like on paper, Hawes should win. It kind of feels like Dolidze is just gonna sandpaper his way to one here. So I have a bet on Dolidze. I think Holmes might actually be it, just because like the physical dimensions. Let me pull them up exactly so I have them right now. The physical dimensions in this fight are literally cartoonish. Like you don't see him. The Jungyoung Park is 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Joseph Holmes is 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. Like Mike, you were talking last week about how Aljamain Sterling looked like he was a featherweight in there with flyweight TJ Dillashaw. That's what we're getting. These 2 dudes step in the cage. It is going to look like at least a weight classes between them. And even though I think Park is probably a better fighter, Holmes is not a bad fighter. And I tried to look up and figure out like how often have there been like such obvious size disparities? And the only ones I didn't get too deep into it because I just didn't want to do it enough. All the ones that I could ever think of were like, yeah, usually the guy with the enormous physical advantages wins the fight. Like it's really tough to overcome an 8-inch reach advantage and 6 inches of height. Just viewer at home, try punching someone who is 3 feet away from you and you have to swing up like this. Like it's really tough. So I like the Iron Turtle. He's a better fighter. I just think Holmes is going to win by physicality, if nothing else.
And he's got what AK likes to deem the cheat code in his corner in James Krause.
Yeah, James
That
Krause.
doesn't hurt you either. What was this one? Over under 3.5 finishes.
I would say over. Let me make sure. Because actually, maybe not. Yeah. 3.5 is a good line. Whoever set that, well done. I'll still take over though. I think we're gonna get over. I got 11 fights, and I think we can get 5 finishes on this card if I had to ballpark it.
Yeah. How many do I have? I have 1, 2. I have a bunch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I got 6 finishes on this card. Is this card on paper better than next week's card?
Let me look at next week's card because I only vaguely remember the limos.
I mean, I'll answer because I know I have my thoughts. The main event of this card is better, but
next week's card's better.
Yeah, next week's card is better as a whole.
Not by a lot, but it's better. Rodriguez Lemos is good. Magny Rodriguez is good. Madsen Dawson is probably not going to be fun, but that's very relevant. Maverick Young, there are more relevant fights next week than this one, so it's a better card. And you get Jailton Almeida doing Jailton Almeida things, and he's very generous to have a catchweight fight, so it doesn't even mess up my heavyweight overs plan. So next week's card is a little bit better, not by a lot, but
Is this a parlay? I mean, I think I already know Jed's answer to this question, but
don't parlay underdogs.
There you go. Plus 377.
If parlaying underdogs never works, and you will always feel like the worst person if Roundtree wins and then Allen loses, and you'll be like, "Well, I should have just taken the plus 150 on Roundtree. That would have been way cooler." Just don't parlay underdogs. You have baked in value. In general, don't parlay. Parlays are a sucker's bet. I'm a sucker and thus make them, but don't parlay.
Did you hear George call Nate a borderline vegetable 2 weeks ago? Must be serious if I'm reading it again on MMA Fighting. Any developments on that story? I mean, you're just reading it on MMA Fighting because the article dropped on Friday. The interview's been out for a little while longer, but yes. No, there's no developments. It's just now we're releasing the story because there's nowhere to put it. There's nowhere to put it. UFC 280 was last week, so it dropped Friday. There you go. No developments. Nate hasn't responded to it, so there you go. People are grumpy today. You are grumpy. Combat 0341. Come on, dude.
Why are people grumpy?
Go for a run. Go for a run, dude. Go for a jog. Get rid of the grumps. Good grief. Where are we at? A lot of just comments. That's very true. We were talking about pacing. PFL pacing is just the worst. And they're going to pay-per-view too. How exciting is that?
The PFL pay-per-view championship. It's going to be the best 36 hours of my life. You guys we get like 10, we get what, 6 champions? What are they, 5 weight classes? 5 championship bouts on pay-per-view with pacing. It's going to be amazing.
And probably the absolute, I mean, could be a death of Marlon Moraes against Shane Burgos, which, by the way, is the stupidest fight PFL's ever booked. I mean, it's just horrible. It's a cool fight, but I mean, you just signed this guy. You just brought him in out of retirement. They're going to fight in the next season at the same weight class, and you're just going to throw them in willy-nilly on a pay-per-view card that 11,000 people are going to buy. It just makes no sense to me. And what if Moraes just gets destroyed, which is a very good chance that happens? Then you just, whatever momentum this dude built, you just killed it heading into the next season. Just throw him in there with like a 2-1 dude who like lives in New York and will sell a couple of tickets. Throw Shane Burgos in there with a guy, a little more experience. That's a featherweight or like a bantamweight.
Scored. Wasn't even paying attention.
Bulldog scored a touchdown? Yeah,
was not paying attention because I was listening to you get after it and chastising PFL.
Yeah, it's just bad. And I still want to know how much is. Listen, we are about a month away from this thing. We're less than a month away from this car. We still don't know what it's going to cost.
I think they don't know either, which is why we don't know. I think they are trying to figure out what they can possibly price this thing at. Mike, I assume you're on watching the UFC stuff to know when somebody's walking out, because I'm
watching. They're at the desk right now. First fight, 10 minutes and 26 seconds. So get get a couple more questions in. Jed and I will play the guessing games in a matter of moments.
Love the
When is
guessing
the
game.
Jake versus Silva fight? Main card starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're actually be back here at 8:30 to do one of these again for the Jake Paul Anderson Silva card. Do you have a prediction on that? A few people have asked.
I believe Anderson Silva is going to win comfortably. I feel really confident. And when I feel this confident, it makes me less confident because I'm like, I just have to be missing something because I just genuinely do not see why anyone would believe Jake Paul wins this fight. Unless you're one of the people who incorrectly believe that this is a work. Like, it's not. But, like, at least that would make sense to me. Like, this is just all scripted. Jake Paul is not a bad boxer. He's not a good one. Like, he is a guy with 6 fights. Questionable to call them pro because they weren't against other professional boxers. Like, he is a guy learning to box, and he has shown some promise. I'm not here to shit on Jake Paul. Anderson Silva is really good at fist fighting people, and specifically is a pretty solid boxer, having beaten a former world champion, even if he was a semi-fraudulent world champion in some regards. Like, Jake Paul, the shortest way I can explain this is look at the Woodley fights. Tyron Woodley, the gulf between Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva is the Grand Canyon as far as striking arts goes. And Jake Paul struggled with Woodley and put him away with a really great punch at setup with the feint. But the fact that he looked at that feint and was like, I am great at boxing because I threw a basic feint and followed with the right hand and killed him. Anderson Silva is going to look like an actual wizard in there if, like, that is the extent of your boxing savvy, is like one feint and an overhand. Like, the ways Anderson has lost as he's aged has not been one guy clobbering him. The only person who's ever knocked him out cold was Chris Weidman one time. And everybody else has been consistent pressure, volume, and power, also behind defensive responsibility. All of those things are things that happen when you are a legitimate top fighter in the world. Like, those are the guys he's fighting. Jake Paul, I just genuinely don't see how he's going to create offense that is going to get close to touching Anderson Silva. Like, I don't think Anderson's going to kill him because I think Anderson is going to carry him. But this fight, to me, should look, based on everything in my head, just should look like Conor McGregor Floyd. Like, the first round, Jake comes out with fire and maybe he, like, looks interesting by just winging some stuff, but nothing lands, nothing hits. Anderson has his timing, and then Anderson's kind of jokes around for the next 8 rounds or 7 rounds, I guess, and takes a clear decision. Everybody wins. Anderson gets to go fight Roy Jones Jr. Jake Paul hung in there with Anderson Silva when Tito Ortiz couldn't do it, etc. He loses, but he loses to the best guy he's ever faced. He gets props for taking this fight in general. He can still go fight Nate Diaz. Everybody wins. And that feels like the most obvious outcome here.
I'm going with the least obvious outcome. Something weird's going to happen, and we're going to get a draw. We're going to get a draw.
I mean, that's also very possible.
Which is going to make us groan. We're going to be like, oh, are you shitting me after all
I'm
this?
okay with that.
But yeah, exactly. But eventually
all of my bets will press, and I'm
in the end, we're all going to be like, okay, this is okay. Because Anderson didn't get knocked out, because that's like the big fear of everybody, right? Like, no one wants to see that happen. And Jake doesn't lose, so you could still do the Nate fight, and it's still going to make floppity jillion dollars. Anderson could still go box Roy Jones Jr. because he doesn't have to answer the "you lost to Jake Paul" questions, any of that. So 8 rounds. I think Jake can win some. I think Anderson will win some, and I think we're going to get a draw that might be somewhat controversial at the end of it, but all good.
That feels like an okay one. I truly kind of think I would be more surprised for Anderson Silva to get knocked out by Jake Paul than I would be for Calvin Kattar to get knocked out by Arnold Allen. Like, I just don't. How does he punch him in the face hard enough to knock him out? I cannot. Nobody can explain to me how he does it. Like, Israel Adesanya couldn't land clean on Anderson Silva. Jake Paul's gonna suddenly do it. Like, I don't get it, man. But it is interesting, if nothing else. And I'm going to tune in and watch. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to watch it. We'll see what happens. And Nate's going to be in the building, and Will there be a Nate Diaz Jake Paul face-off tonight at any point?
That's a good question. I think yeah. I think it feels like maybe it's not like in the ring. Maybe they do like the Tommy Fury backstage run in like they did it with Ben Askren or whatever. But I think at some point you just got to. Everyone knows that this is where we're going. Like you just gotta. You know what? They're gonna do the thing, Mike. Jake Paul does the thing, and they're gonna do the thing here.
Does he do the thing though? Because here's when he tried to do the thing in December. Like there's doing the thing, and then there's like doing the thing just to say you did the thing. And that's what Jake Paul did, because he goes out there and he knocks out Tyron Woodley with this ridiculous knockout. And then he goes out and he calls out Masvidal and Diaz. And then eventually
that wasn't his best moment.
I mean, and it's fine. But then at the press conference, I asked him, if you could only choose one, then who would you pick? Would it be Masvidal or Nate? And he's like, and his manager jumped in and said, well, they're under contract, so he can't fight any of them. I was like, I understand that, Nikisa, but the man got into the middle of a ring after a knockout and called these two guys out by name. These were the two names he said. So he obviously wants to fight them. So if he could only pick one, who would it be? So he tried to do the thing just to say he did the thing, but he didn't actually do the thing. Now he has the chance to do the thing. Okay, so now we are about to have fights. Here comes Josh Weems to make the watch. So let's play the game. Let's play the bonus game, Jed.
I forgot we got to do that. Bonus game.
Bonus game. Who's going to get bonuses tonight?
Your fight of the night is going to go to the main event between Calvin Kattar and Arnold Allen. I don't think that's going out on a huge limb to say that.
Agreed.
Your bonuses of the night, I'm going to give one to Khalil Roundtree because didn't mention it. The last two times he fought those Goy kickboxing, the only two performance bonuses of Khalil Roundtree's career. Make that 3 for 3, and buddy, I will have a new gimmick to bet my heart on every time forward. And your second bonus, let's go Carlos Mota. I think he's going to finish third. Let's go there.
I like that one. That's a good pick. Fight of the night is going to be exactly the main. It's just exactly
5 rounds has such an advantage in fight of the nights.
I think Waldo Cortez Acosta is going to get one. I mean, Jared's just not going to do. He's not going to wrestle. He's not going to grapple. He's going to try to strike. He's going to get knocked out quick, in my opinion. The other bonus, just to be different, I'll go with Chase Hooper. I think he's going to get a finish in this fight. Like, it'll be late.
Wouldn't shock me. If he gets a finish, he's got a great chance to get the bonus. So
yeah, I think he gets a late submission. All right, you're going with Khalil Roundtree. I'm going with Dustin Jacoby to win a decision. Trayshawn Gore versus Josh Fremd. Who you got?
Let me pull up my things. I have Fremd by decision.
I also have Fremd by decision.
I actually have Roundtree by decision in my MMA fighting picks.
Nice.
I just realized, but
I got you.
Screw it, KO. Let's go.
WCA versus Vandera. I know you're betting on Vandera, because you got some juicy submission props, but
plus 1100 for Vandera by submission. I lit that money on fire as soon as I placed the bet, but I couldn't talk myself out of it. I'm taking Cortez Acosta KO round 3. Ooh. I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm taking round 1. Tim Means, Max Griffin.
Griffin KO round 2. Tim Means really starting to get up there, slowing down a lot. Younger Tim Means, this is a really, really fun fight. I think older one maybe makes this just a touch sad.
I'm playing this as if I'm looking at this from a betting perspective. So I'm going to take Tim Means just because I think
yes.
I think it's closer. Like, I think this is a closer fight than him being a plus 155 dog, honestly.
Agree.
Main event, Calvin Kattar versus Arnold Allen. I've talked about this many times. I feel like this is exactly what the betting line suggests. It's a pick 'em. It's a 50-50 fight. Both guys' offenses are fantastic. The defenses of both guys can negate some of the really effective offensive talents, especially on the feet. Both guys can wrestle a little bit. It's a crazy fight. I think the biggest difference is going to be the extra 2 rounds for Calvin Kattar. We haven't seen Allen in that position, and I can't get that third round of the Sodiq Yusuff fight out of my mind. He didn't gas or anything like that, but you could definitely see him slowing down, and Calvin's not going to do that at any point in this fight. He will not slow down, and I think those extra 10 minutes are going to help Calvin out. So I think he wins a decision. It's very, very close, a 48-47, but this could be another trip to Splitty City, and we could have a headline for our post-fight show and saying, did quote-unquote fighter get robbed in the main event?
I'm going the opposite side. I think this is a really close fight. I've been, I think, the biggest Arnold Allen guy at MMA fighting for a couple years now. I have him the highest ranked in my featherweight rankings. I believe he is going to challenge for the title one day. I don't know if he'll win it, but I do think he will challenge. And the big thing for me is I think we are coming in. I think he is about to hit his peak. He has just turned 28. This is where he should be hitting the nexus of his athletic, mental, physical, spiritual, whatever prime, like Khabib said for Islam going into that, coming off the best performance of his career. Second time he's fought this year, which is a big thing for him. He hasn't gotten to do that often. I think he is about to be, I think you and I could agree, Mike, Calvin Kattar does not have many years left at the top. If he still has his fastball, it's going to go down pretty soon. I think Arnold Allen is just about to really find himself. And so that's enough to give me the edge here. I think he takes 3, maybe 4 of the rounds. I feel really confident 3-round fight, 5-round fight. Still think Allen gets it done by decision.
Yeah, first round is very crucial in this one, at least in my opinion. I think if Kattar can win the first round, I think he wins the fight, but we'll see what happens. The main event is great from a stylistic perspective. Hopefully one of these guys, whoever wins, does the thing. We get an interim title fight with some stakes and some interest. All right, first fight about to begin. We'll be back here 8:30 for the Jake Paul, Anderson Silva portion of this particular programming. We'll answer your questions. Then not long after that, we will come back for the post-fight show, and then there'll be a post-fight show for Paul Silva, probably on site. But if there's just a incredible finish, something weird happens in this Paul Silva main event on the boxing card, we'll come back and just do a quick reaction to that. So you never know. Just make sure you bookmark this YouTube channel, because a lot of stuff will and could potentially happen. So for Jed, I am Mike. Thank you very much. Enjoy the fights, everybody.
Love you guys. And don't forget about Bellator. It's on right now on Showtime. So if you have Showtime, tune into Bellator too.
See, Josh, we're promoting.